Hey there! Welcome to the Getting Started video on the Aptos blockchain. My name is Chris Kim, and I'm a developer relations engineer at Aptos Labs. So this video is a getting started guide on the Aptos blockchain. So this video is for new developers who are new to Aptos and want to learn how they can start their developer journey on this blockchain. So today, we are going to cover all the way from setting up your development environment, writing your first Move module, which is a smart contract on the Aptos blockchain, and then publishing that module to an Aptos devnet. By the end of this video, you will have learned everything that you will have to know for writing a smart contract on Aptos, all the way from all of the tools that you'll be using, how to test it, how to compile it, and how to publish it to the network. So you'll be equipped with enough knowledge to take the next step and then go on to build your application on Aptos. Sounds good? Let's get started. The first step, let's set up our development environment. So first thing, I want you guys to come to this website, aptos.dev. This is the Aptos developer documentation, and this is where you'll find all of the information that you'll need when building on Aptos. So when you're on this page, I want you to head over to the Get Started section and click on Developer Setup. Then I want you guys to come to the Smart Contract tab and click on Install CLI. On this page, it has this Install the Aptos CLI section. And depending on the operation system that you are using, you can click on them to install the Aptos CLI. I'm on Mac right now, so I'll click on Mac. And as you can see, it has clear installation instructions on this page. So it seems like this is using brew install to install the Aptos CLI. So what you would do is you would go to your terminal and run the command that's on that page. So it was brew install Aptos. Now I have Aptos CLI installed on my computer, but you just run this command and it will just install the CLI for you. Now once you have the Aptos CLI installed, to check if you have installed correctly, you should run aptos --version. And if you see the version number of your Aptos CLI, then you are all set on installing Aptos CLI. Cool. Now let's create a project directory that we're going to create today. So just create a folder using your terminal. I'm on Mac, so I'll do make dir getting started Aptos. So now I have this folder called Getting Started Aptos. So I'm going to go inside of that folder. And now we are in the project that we're going to work on today. Now, once you're here inside of this folder, the first thing you have to do is run aptos init. Now, this command, what it does is it sets up a default Aptos account that you're going to work with when you're building your smart contract. So as you're building, you're probably going to have to test it or deploy it. Once you're done writing the module, you're going to have to deploy it to a network, right? And when you do that, you need an account to do that. So we're going to set a default account inside of this project so that later on, we don't have to manually bring in an account address whenever we want to publish or test our contract. We can just use the default that is set in this folder. So after you run this command, it will ask you to configure, choose a network. Now it's default to DevNet, so I'm just going to hit enter because that's what we're going to work with today. Then it's going to ask you to enter the private key. So if you have an account that you already have and you want to use that account specifically, you can paste in the private key for that account here. But if not, just hit enter and it will generate a new account for you and also fund it with some Octus to play around with. So Octus is the minimum denominator for the APT token. So it's basically funding you with some APT so that you can later pay for gas fees and stuff. Cool. If you see the result success, then you have successfully set up the Aptos default account in this project. Now, beyond this point, I'm going to do everything inside of a VS Code IDE. Now, I highly recommend that you use VS Code, Visual Studio Code, for this tutorial, because that is the tool that I'm going to be using today. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code inside of this folder. Code. If you don't have this shell command installed, then just open up Visual Studio Code and open up this project inside of your IDE. Cool. Let me make that bigger for you guys. Now we're inside of our Getting Started Aptos folder, and you'll see that it has this folder called .aptos. Now this was automatically created when I ran aptos init. And if you go inside of the config.yaml file, you'll see that our default account is configured to devnet, and you get the private key and the public key, all the account information that you need inside of this folder. Now, obviously, I'm showing my private key here. Never ever do this. Very dangerous, right? But for educational purposes, I am letting you guys in on my secret. Cool. So now once I have my default account set up, now we're ready to initialize an Aptos project inside of this folder. So to do that, I'm going to open up a terminal inside of my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to run aptos move init -- name, and let's call this hello aptos. So this command right here is going to create an empty Aptos project inside of your directory. So as you can see, it created these 3 folders: scripts, sources, test, and it also created this move.toml file. Now these are empty folders, but if you go to move.toml file, you'll see this configuration file that configures for your move module. So it defines the dependencies, the Aptos framework that the module is going to use, and later you'll be able to set the addresses here to define the publisher of your move module. So we're actually going to do that now. So under the addresses section, create a variable called move_publisher. It's just the random name. And set that to an underscore wrapped by quotation marks. Now what this is saying is that I'm not setting a fixed account as the publisher of my move module. What I'm saying is, hey, later when I'm publishing it, I will tell you what account I want to use as the publisher. So it's a more flexible way of setting up your publishing account. Now today in this tutorial, the contract that we're going to write, we're calling it hello aptos. And basically it's going to have 2 functions: set message and get message, where you're going to be able to set a message that lives on chain stored in a struct, and you'll also have a get message function where you'll be able to read that value. So it's a very simple contract, but it will kind of give you the sense of what a move code looks like and how you can compile it, test it, and publish the module on Aptos. So let's now create our move file. So head to the sources folder, create a file called hello-aptos.move. Now, right now, our Visual Studio Code IDE doesn't have any extension installed for our move code. So if we just start writing our code here, it won't have any syntax highlighting. It will just be white text. Now, as a developer, I mean, for those crazy 10x devs, it can be fine. But for normies like me, I need some syntax highlighting and some hints that can tell me like the definition of the types that I'm working with or the functions that I'm calling. So we're going to install the extension right now to our IDE. So head to the extension section and type in move on Aptos. And you'll find this move on Aptos extension created by Aptos Labs. Hit install to install the extension. Now, this is an extension created and maintained by the engineers at Aptos Labs. So it is the most up-to-date and most feature abundant extension out there right now for Aptos Move. So I highly recommend that you use this extension when you're working with Aptos Move. Cool. Let's head back to our file here, and now you see that our module is all colored in purple now. Cool. All right, now let's create the module. So on Aptos Move, something interesting here is that usually this is where you would write your name of your contract. Now on Aptos, all modules have to be associated with the publisher's account at compile time. That's because when the module is published, that information is stored on the publisher account, on the publisher's account. So we need to, when we are writing the name here, we need to first write the address of the publisher and then the name of the module. So to do this, we head to our move.toml file again. And remember, we named this address here to be move_publisher. So copy that over and paste that in here. And this is basically saying that, hey, when I'm publishing this module, I'm going to use whatever account that we assign to this move_publisher. So we do move_publisher, : and then we're going to name it hello_Aptos and add a curly bracket. So all of your contract code is going to exist inside of this curly bracket. Cool. So first thing, when you start writing your code, you need to import in predefined functions and modules that live on the Aptos blockchain. So what's interesting about the Move language is that all of the functions that you are going to use, well, not all, but a lot of the functions that you're going to use are actually Move modules, like the one that we are writing right now, that is published on the Aptos blockchain. And you're just taking those functions and just use it instead of you having to define everything yourself. So that's what we're going to do here right now. So to import in, you do use. So this is how you do imports on Move. And we're going to import in the string module from the standard library. And we are going to end up with a semicolon. So this std right here is a standard library for Move. And inside of that library, it has this string module that defines the string type or functions regarding the string type inside of Move. We're also going to import in std : sign in. And signers are used to sign transactions inside of the Move contract. All right, so those are the two things that we're going to import in for this module. After you do the imports, next thing you do is you have to define structs that are required for this module. So to define a struct, you do struct and then the name of the struct. And we're going to call it message holder, because this is a struct that's going to store the messages that's going to be set by calling the set message function later on. Now, when it comes to structs on Aptos Move, there are 4 abilities for structs. There are key, store, copy, and drop. Now, key is an ability that makes a struct a resource that lives under an account. It is stored on the global state and you can query it. Store is an ability that lets you store the struct on global storage and you can read from the global storage as well. It also lets a struct be stored inside of another struct as well. Copy is an ability that lets you copy the struct and duplicate it. And drop is an ability that lets you delete it and drop it when it goes out of scope. So there are 4 abilities that you can configure for each struct. But here for this message holder, because we want this to be stored in the global storage and stored under an account, we're going to make it give the ability of key, store, and also we're going to give it the drop ability. Now I'll explain why we're giving it the drop ability later when I'm writing the set message function. And after I give the ability, before I write these abilities, I have to say has. So struct message holder has these three abilities: key, store, and drop. And I'm going to add the curly bracket, and this is how you define a struct, an empty struct. Now inside of this struct, we're going to have one field called message. And this has the string type. So this is where we're going to use the string module. And inside of the string module, we're going to use the string type. Nice. So that's all for the message holder struct. Now let's create a function where you let the caller to set a new message on chain. So to do that, we are going to make a function called set message. Now, in Aptos Move, functions are by default private, meaning that you can't call it from outside. So to make it public, you just write public in the front. Now, because we want this set message function to be called by an external account, we need to make this an entry function, not just public. A public function is available outside where other Move modules, functions defined inside of other Move modules can call this function. But if you want an external account to call this function, you need to make it an entry function by doing public entry front. Cool. So we have an entry function called setMessage, and this is going to take in an account parameter, which has the reference of the signer type. So that's basically the signer of the function caller. The message parameter, which has the, again, string type. And that's it. Cool. Now, this set function is going to set a new message on inside of the message holder struct, right? So we need to access the message holder struct. So whenever we do that, whenever we need to work with the struct, the function needs to acquire the struct. So this function is going to acquire the message holder struct. Nice. And then the curly bracket. So that's the definition of the function. All right, so the first thing this function is going to do is we're going to create a variable called account address. And this is going to, and we're going to set that to signer : address of account. And then semicolon. So this code right here, we're using the function defined inside of the signer module. And this gets the address of the signer value type. Because we're passing the signer type, we're just getting the account address of that signer. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do if, and then open the parentheses. If we, what we want to do here is we want to check if this account already has a message holder struct stored inside of its account. So we're going to do exists, and we're going to do message holder, and we're going to pass in the account address here. This code right here is checking if this account has the message holder resource stored under its account. Now, if that is true, we're going to do move from, again, the message holder, and then account adder. This move from function removes the message holder from the account address and returns it. Now we're doing this because later down below here, we're going to set a new message, but we can't do that if the struct already exists. So we're actually dropping it by calling move from. So this is why the message holder struct had the drop ability. Okay, so if it exists, we're dropping the message holder from that account. After doing that, we're going to do move to, and then we're going to pass in the account, the signer, And then we are going to define a new message holder struct. And inside of that message holder struct, we have the message type, which is the message parameter. Now this move to function publishes a new message holder struct under the signer address. So this takes in the signer as the first parameter and the struct that we are storing as the second parameter. Now, since the field and the variable has the same name, we can just do message here to simplify our code. And I need to add semicolon there. Cool. So that's the set message function. It's a very simple function. We're just getting the account address. We're using that to check if that account has an existing message holder struct. If it does, drop it, and then create a new message holder struct and store it inside under that account. So that's how you set a new message through this function. All right, now let's create the next function, the get message function. Now, this get message function should also be public, right? So we're going to make this a public function. Now, this get message function is only going to read the message stored inside of the message holder struct, right? So we can make this into a view function by doing hashtag bracket view. And this is saying that, hey, this is a function that is only reading on-chain storage and not changing the state of the blockchain. Now we do this because a view function is much cheaper to call. So it's nice to make it a view function so that you can save some gas. But this get message function is going to take in an account address parameter, which has the address type. Now I could pass in the signer here as well, but just to showcase taking in the address type directly and see how you can work with that, I wanted to do this. Also, you really don't need a signer for this get message function, so that's why I'm just passing in the account address directly. Now, this get message is going to have a return type, right? It has to return the message. So to define the return type of this function, we do colon, and then we define the return type here, which is a string type. String, colon, colon, string. After defining the return type, this get message is also going to be using the message holder struct, right? So we need to acquire the message holder struct like that. And that's the function definition. Cool. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to do an assert where it checks that the caller of this function, or the account address that we're passing in as the argument here, has an existing message holder under its account. So we use the exist function again, and we're going to check, hey, does the message holder exist for this account address? And if it doesn't, we're just gonna give the 0. We're just assigning the number 0 as the error code here. Now later, when you become more advanced here, you can define like the error message above, but I'm not gonna go into that for this video. Okay, so we checked that the message holder exists. So we have a message that we can read. Oh, amazing. So to do that, we are going to first create a variable that's going to hold the message. So this is let message holder. We're going to retrieve the struct, and we're going to do that by doing borrow global. We are going to be borrowing the message holder from the account address. Now we have a new function here that we're seeing. Borrow global is a function that retrieves the struct that is stored on chain. And when we do this, we are getting an immutable reference to the message holder. So we can't change the value stored inside of this message holder reference here. We can't change anything. We just we're only able to read the value stored in here. Later, if I want to get a mutable reference so that I can change the value that is stored inside of the struct, you would do borrow global mute. And now it would become a mutable reference. But since we're not changing anything, let's just use borrow global. Great, so we have the message holder struct reference here. And now let's access the message field inside of that struct by doing .message. And just writing this here is saying that, hey, I want to return this message. You don't need to write return or anything. It's just, you just write message holder .message, and this function will return the message stored inside of the message holder struct. Great. So that's it. That's the entire Hello Aptos smart contract, where we can set a new message or update an old message, and we can read the message as well. So now let's try compiling this contract so that we know that everything works perfectly fine, there is no error, and so that later on we can use that compiled version to publish the move module. So to do that, we open up the terminal and we do aptos move compile -- named addresses, and where we are doing move underscore publisher equals default. Now, what does this mean? Aptos move compile is the command that you use to compile your move module. And then we have this flag named addresses. And this is where we assign an account to the move publisher variable that we have created inside of the move toml file. So remember, we just set it to an underscore. This means that, hey, when I'm going to compile or publish, I will tell you what account we'll use. And we're saying that we're going to use the default account. And what is the default account? That's the default account that we configured at the beginning of this video by doing aptos init. So it's all coming together now, right? That's why setting up a default account in the beginning, it just streamlines your developer process. Cool, so I hit enter. All right, so we have an error here. Expected expression with no value but found. Okay, where is that? Let's go to our code. All right, what did I do wrong here? That's because I didn't add a semicolon there. Let's try compile again. There we go, it compiles. So you see, when you compile, you'll run into errors. Don't panic like I did. It's normal. And it's actually helpful because it will tell you, the error message will tell you, hey, this is not okay, change it, fix it. So you know ahead of time that, okay, I did something wrong here. Cool. So my contract is now ready. Before I publish this to a network, I want to test my functions to make sure that it works properly, the way I expect it to work. So let's add some debug prints inside of our module and also write a test function to test our contract. So to do that, we are first going to import in use std : debug. We're going to be using this module to add debug prints. Inside of our set message function, let's add a debug print here, debug : print, and let's print the message that we passed in as the parameter. Now this print function takes in a reference of things. That's why I added the ampersand in the front of the message. Cool. Let's also add a debug print here. That's going to print out a message. And to do that, we are going to get a reference again. Sorry. Reference of a string, : UTF-8, and we're going to pass in a byte value of a string, saying updating existing value. or message. When you're working with string inside of the move module, there's no way to directly just write strings. So that's why you got to use this UTF-8 function inside of the string module and pass in a byte value of the string. And I know it looks complicated, but just do string : UTF-8, write your string, and just put a B in front of your string. And you can just think of this as just writing a string literal. Cool, now let's add a message here, debug print. Again, a reference to the message here. And we are going to say creating a new message. Cool. Now, to make that work really the way I want it to work, I'll just wrap this message inside of an else here, because I only want that to print when we are creating a new message. Cool. I'll add a debug print over here as well to print out the message that we read. So we're going to do debug : print reference to the message folder dot message and semicolon. And great. All right, so our debug is ready. Now let's write our test functions. So to do that, let's go to our directory again. We have this test folder here, so let's use that. So we are going to go inside of that folder, create a new file, and name it hello aptos -move test.move. Cool. Now, your test functions are also going to be stored inside of a move module. So create a new module. And we're also going to give it the name of the publisher here, move publisher. And : hello Aptos test. Perfect. So we have a test module now. This is also going to use the string module, use the signer module, and it's also going to use the move publisher : hello Aptos module, because the module that we just wrote is a module that we can import in. Now, this is for testing purposes only, right? So to let the compiler know that this is a module just for test purposes, we are going to add a hashtag test only. And now the compiler knows that this is for test purposes. All right, let's create a function called test set and get messages function. Cool. Now this is a function that's going to run a test, right? So we need to add the test hashtag here, and inside of this bracket, we are going to actually set the testing account that we're going to use inside of this account, inside of this function. So we're going to say sender is equal to @movePublisher. So we're going to use our default account for testing as well, and we are going to assign that to the sender variable. So inside of the function parameter, we're going to pass that sender variable in as a parameter. Cool. All right, now let's do the testing. So to test our functions, we're just going to call them. So we are going to do hello Aptos : set message, and this function takes in the account signer and the message here. So the account signer is the sender, right? And the message, we will pass in a string, again a UTF-8, and we will say hello Aptos. Cool. After we set the message, let's read our message that is now set on chain by calling the get message function by doing hello Aptos : get message, and we need to pass in the sender. But remember that the get message function takes in the account address, not the signer. So we actually need to get the signer, the account address by doing signer : address of sender, because sender is a signer. There we go. And this has a return type. So let's store it inside of message. All right, now that we got the message that was stored, let's do an assert saying that, hey, this message should equal string : UTF-8 be hello Aptos. And if it fails, we're going to give 0 as the error code. So the code that you're writing is really the same syntax, the same code. It's just that what's different is you just need to add these test hashtags and also test only hashtag outside of the module. And the compiler now will know, and the Aptos CLI will know that, hey, this is the module and the function that I need to run when I run the command aptos move test. Okay, I think everything is set up properly. Let's try running this test. So we come to our terminal again, and to run a test, we do aptos move test -- named addresses, where the move publisher is equal to default. Great. So by running that command, it's going to find this test file and run the test defined inside of here. So cool. So you see that we see running move unit tests, and we're getting these debug prints. These are the debug prints that we set up inside of our contract here, like the ones over here. And you can see that our test passes, where we had one test. So that's how you test your move code. Now, this is a very important step, especially when you're building smart contracts, because once you deploy it, it's really hard to modify it. I mean, move modules on Aptos are upgradable to a certain extent, but it's super important that you make sure there are no security vulnerabilities or any type of bugs that you weren't expecting to happen, when you deploy it on the network. So make sure you get familiar with this testing workflow when you're writing your smart contract. Amazing. Now we only have the last step left, where we are just going to deploy this move module to DevNet. Now, DevNet is a developer network. Everything on there is free, right? The APT that you use, fake APT. So it's a super reliable and secure and safe environment for you to just do a bunch of testing for your application before you move over to testnet and then finally mainnet. Now, one thing to be aware of is that DevNet is reset every week. So, all of like the state changes or that you made on the DevNet, it will get reset and get wiped away every week. So if you need to do some long-term testing, we recommend that you do that on testnet and not in DevNet. So DevNet is more for like a temporary, quick testing environment. Cool. Now let's publish our module. We open up our terminal, and to publish it, we do aptos move publish. Name -- named addresses, and the move publisher account, we're going to use the default account. Cool. So it's building our contract. Then it's asking me, hey, do you want to submit a transaction for a range of this amount of octets as gas unit of 100 octets? So it's kind of estimating how much it will cost to publish this module. So I'll say yes. Cool. So we see the message, transaction submitted, and we can check the transaction in our Explorer, and we see that we got a successful return value right here. So now our Hello Aptos contract is live on the developer network. Let's actually head to the Aptos Explorer and see what happened. So I'm going to click this link and let's go to the Explorer. So the Explorer that you see right here is the Aptos Explorer. This is supported for all networks, mainnet, testnet, and devnet. So you can use this for your development purposes, but you can also use it to query account information, asset information, or module information if you want. But right now, we are looking at the transaction that published our module. So you see that this transaction has called the function publish package transaction. So every transaction on Aptos is actually a move function. It's very interesting. So we call this function to publish our module. And yeah, you can check out all the information about this transaction. You can, if you go to events, you can see that, you can see like how much gas we used. The published package is over here. So let's actually go to the module that is deployed. So to do that, you can either just go to, or you can just go to the sender's account page. Because remember, all modules published modules live under the publisher's account. So if I go to the sender's account page, you can see that this has sent this published package transaction. There's a tab called modules. If you go to the modules page, you see all the packages that this account has published. And we see the Hello Aptos package right here. So you'll see like the name, like the package manifest. Remember, this is the move.toml file that we saw in our VS Code. If you go to code, you can actually see the actual raw code. But this is only the case if the publisher of this code has said yes to this. I'm okay with sharing my code here. So, but you can also have an option to not display your original code and only showcase the API. Now, what's also super cool about the Aptos Explorer is that you can actually interact with this published smart contract. So if you go to the Run tab inside of the Modules tab, you can call the set message function directly from this page. Now, let me check if my account is properly configured here. I'm not sure if this account doesn't have any APT in it. So what do I need to do? I need to fund this account. What you can do is when you usually come to this Aptos Explorer, you won't have any wallet connected. So click on Connect Wallet, click on the Petra wallet, and log into your Petra wallet. Type your password, approve, and now you have your account connected to the Aptos Explorer. Now currently I don't have any APT, DevNet APT in my account. It was easy for me to do that because I already had an account, an Aptos account. But if you don't have one, just create a Petra account. It's super easy to do. And after you create it, you'll have an empty Aptos account like me. So let's fund this account with some DevNet APT. So let's head back to our terminal. You can just use the IDE terminal here. And we are, again, going to use the Aptos CLI. So to do that, we do Aptos account fund with faucet -- account, and we paste in the account address here. So let's copy this address here, paste that in. Now, how much do I want to fund it? -- amount. Let's just do 1 million octets. Cool. So now we got 1 million octets in my account. If I come to the Explorer, you can see that I have 0.01 APT in my account now. that should be enough to call the function. All right, now let's head back to the Hello Aptos page here, and let's try calling the setMessage function with my account. So I'm going to pass in hello world this time. Hello world as the parameter. Let's hit run. Oops, my wallet needs to be definite. That is correct. So to do that, you go to your Petra extension, and we need to change to definite. There we go. Awesome. Now we are in definite. All right, let's hit run again. It will ask you to approve the transaction, so I'll hit approve, and there you go. I was able to set message call the set message function right here. Nice. Now let's try reading the message that we just set. To do that, we go to the view tab, and this is where you get access to all the view functions. And remember, we set our get message to be a view function. So we go to the get message function here, and this time we need to pass in the address. So we are going to copy our address here, paste that in, and let's hit view. And there you go. We got the hello world message that we just set by calling the set message function. So yeah, congratulations. You have published your first Move module on the Aptos blockchain. And you also interacted with it using the Aptos Explorer. So again, to do a quick recap of what we did in this video, we went from all the way from not having anything set up on a computer all the way to having your Move module deployed on one of the Aptos networks. We went through setting up your development environment. We wrote the Hello Aptos module. We wrote the test for it, and then we published it and interacted with it using the Aptos Explorer. So congratulations again for getting through this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a long one, but I hope that you found it helpful and you have learned enough to know where you can go next. For your next step, I recommend you guys check out the Aptos developer documentation by going to aptos.dev. You'll find tutorials, guides, code examples, and concept overviews of everything that you have to know to build your application on Aptos. The docs even have an AI chatbot that you can just ask questions to so that you don't have to manually go through the documentation. For questions or connecting with the rest of the Aptos developer community, we recommend you head to our Discord channel. You'll meet other developers there, and you'll be able to get your questions answered from that channel. Now, for a more formal way of asking your questions and getting them answered, we recommend that you go to our GitHub discussion channel, where we have the community and the Aptos team actively monitoring it to answer any incoming questions that you have. Again, my name is Chris Kim, and I'm super excited to see what you guys build on the Aptos blockchain.